It was meant to be a great new open world for everyone, but in a few decades the internet has fallen under the control of a tiny oligopoly of multinational companies. Today, 7 companies rule the internet. These firms, 5 US and 2 Chinese, are Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Alibaba, Microsoft and Tencent. They have as many users as some of the world's largest states and an immense economic and political power that escapes the control of any government. They are the most profitable global companies today, competing with oil companies, car manufacturers and banks. How did this happen? Only 2 decades ago, we looked hopefully to the web as the promise of a more democratic, equal world. Today, we fear for our privacy, get bombarded with distraction and misinformation, and cannot even imagine alternatives to big tech. If you listen to the CEOs of these tech giants, they are keen to say their success is due to their unique ideas and hard work. They try to sell an image of their companies as laboratories of creativity and brilliance. But is that really how they got so big? Are we to believe that California's Silicon Valley concentrates nearly all the world's talent? Obviously not. What their corporate mythology hides is the money that allowed them to become so big, and the way they have rigged the system to maintain their power. So here are 5 actual reasons for why big tech became so powerful. Number 1, access to capital. There's actually nothing inherently special, unique, or innovative about what these companies offer, or at least this is not the reason for their disproportionate growth. As the tech writer Cory Doctorow put it, Google, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft are all company buying factories that pretend to be idea-generating factories. What they all have access to is huge amounts of venture capital. This has allowed them to provide apparently free services, at least initially, which has enabled them to expand rapidly and hoover up vast amounts of data. It also lets them buy up any competitors, turning them into the giant monopolies we know today. Of course, the products are not free for long. We are soon forced to pay fees or bombarded with advertising. Financiers have encouraged this model as it also provides them with guaranteed profit streams and high returns on investment. Number 2, locking out competitors. Once they have become big, these new digital monopolies have then sought to lock out and prevent any competitors. This has been called building a moat. So Facebook, for example, has used its massive user base and the data that generates, along with its financial power, to make it impossible for any competing company to provide a similar service. They have also prevented their platforms being interoperable with others. This means your friendships, relationships, and even business is now locked into Facebook and cannot be taken elsewhere, even as their services decline. There's little room for new competitors to enter the stage independently, as the moat has become too big to cross. Number 3, infrastructural dominance. Not satisfied with controlling our data, the big tech companies are now buying up the actual physical infrastructure of the internet. In the past decade, the amount of submarine cables these companies own has nearly tripled. And that cloud you use to store your data and access countless services, they control that too. Amazon now owns almost half of the global cloud that hosts our websites and online services. Why does this matter? Because whoever controls the infrastructure ultimately controls the internet, as they can use that power to change what we see and how we see it. Number 4, state support. But all of this would not have happened without the active backing and support from states, which have their own use for the data that the companies collect. You guessed it, surveillance. In fact, states couldn't have come up with a surveillance system as good as the one that has been constructed by big tech. And they now have access to more data than they could dream of. For example, the total number of US government contracts with big tech corporations has grown exponentially in the past 2 decades. States use big tech to build the infrastructure for all kinds of violence and surveillance at home and overseas, including so-called smart and preventative policing, targeted drone strikes, as well as so-called border externalization, identifying, tracking, and detaining migrants on the move, long before they even reach the physical borders of the US and EU. Number 5, economic power and lobbying. The economic power these companies have amassed has been enough to stifle and derail attempts at regulation that would in any way impinge on big tech's power. Big tech spends millions on lobbying. Google, for example, is now one of the biggest lobbyists in both the corridors of Washington, D.C. and Brussels. So as a result of these 5 dynamics, big tech has become one of the biggest threats to justice today. They have created a digital world in which a few companies secure extraordinary profits, in which workers and suppliers are squeezed, and a business model of surveillance is normalized. The concentration of power in so few hands is dangerous for our democracy, our rights, and our freedom. Yet despite all their power, big tech is not invincible. In fact, there's never been a better time to bring down the big tech monopolies and regain control of the internet. Public awareness and political pressure for change is mounting, whether it is EU legislation or antitrust crisis in the US, or whether it's hacktivists building alternative software, or whether it's global protests uniting around a hashtag. There is hope to seize the means of computation and take the web back into public hands. As the tech writer Cory Doctorow explains, we're living through an extraordinary moment, a regulatory moment, on big tech and other kinds of corporate power that is long overdue and has been a long time coming. You too can be part of the global movement to take back the power of the internet. Learn more about this in our State of Power report.